You're watching Life of a Mobster. Yeah, that's me. Step back or you might have to step down forever. Let's go. Life of a Mobster Part 2. Welcome back, everybody. Life of a Mobster Part 2. As the introduction said, let's get started.
Restart button. Share button. Restart. Play button. Play. Home. Back button. I was tired of being someone's punching bag. I didn't want to waste one more minute in my dead life.
All right.
Off. Volume. 90%. CD rate. 70%. 65%. 60%. Text select lines. Words. Characters. Edit. Vertical nap. Form controls. Links. Headings. I was tired of being someone's punching bag. I didn't want to waste one more minute in my dead end life.
All right. Now, we left off last time with our favorite mobster looking to join one of the crime families. Let me turn down my noise a little bit. Thank you to MyNoise.
App switcher.
Let's
Life
turn
of
down
the Mobster.
ambience just a little
MyNoise.
bit.
Active. Swipe up.
Let's turn that ambience down just a
MyNoise.
little bit.
Button. Equalizer up. Button. Button. Equalizer down. Button. Equalizer down.
And let's throw in a little bit of music to make it a little bit more lively.
Button. Equalizer up. Timer. Multi. Button.
Let's throw a little bit of music in.
Customize mix. Share. Button. Add generator. Button.
Let's add a little
Super
bit
generator.
of
Back button.
music.
Flying Fortress. Tibetan choir. Overdone singing. Temple bells. Page 2 of 20. Spring. All. Mr. Electric piano soundscape. Distant thunder. Thunder and rain. Oblivion. Eerie soundscape. Evil charm. Chamber of evil spells. RPG battlefield. War with dices. Orchestral drone. Anamnesis. Past life recall. Underwater. Fin whale calling. What the? Noise blocker. Irish coast. Sea. Wind and circular breeze. Meditation soundscape. Circuit bending. Transistor rhythm machine. Tambura. Tambura drone bilateral harmonic. Stereophonic dode. Dark forest. RPG atmosphere. Telecaster licks. Guitar improv. Telecaster licks.
I like Telecaster
Button.
licks. It's pretty good.
Remove suburb from the multi-generator.
Telecaster licks is pretty sweet. All right, let's adjust it.
Customize mix for Telecaster licks. Button.
Let's
40%.
adjust it a little
Adjustable.
bit.
Button. 35%. 40%. Default. Favorite toggle. Equalizer down. Button. Equalizer up. Equalizer up.
There we go.
Equalizer up. Timer. Multi. Button.
All right, Telecaster licks
Remove suburb
sounds
from the
good.
multi-generator.
I'm going to turn ambience down a tiny bit more.
Customize mix for suburb. Button.
Let's
20%.
turn suburbs
Adjustable.
down a little bit.
30%. Adjustable. Button. 20%. Custom noise. Favorite toggle. Equalizer down. Button. Equalizer down.
There we go. That sounds good.
Button. Equalizer up. Timer. Multi. Button.
And we'll save this.
Button. Customize mix for button. Save. Button. Save. Alert. Super gen name.
And there you go. That's how you make a super generator for MyNoise. And we'll call this our
Return. Delete. S. K. C. I. Cap L. Space. R. E. T. S. A. C. E. L. E. Cap T.
Sorry,
Space.
my keyboard is
Ampersand.
broken right
Space.
now.
B.
I used to be able to do
U.
all this
C.
with my
U.
keyboard.
Cap S.
I'm working on it.
Delete.
Working on getting a new keyboard.
B. N. M. M. O. O. Space. B. B. X. S. S. Y. T. T. R. E. E. R. R. Mobsters. Q. H. Dictate. Button. Dictate. Emoji. Return. Space. Numbers. Dictate. Button. Dictate. Emoji. Return. Space. Dictate. Dictate. Emoji. Return. Space. Numbers. Delete. M. N. Text field. Is editing. Clear text. Text field. How do you want? Super gen name. Super gen name. How? Clear text. Cancel. Save. Button.
And save.
Save. Button.
We're good.
App switcher. MyNoise. Life of the Mobster. Active. Life of the Mobster. Home. Back button.
Now we have appropriate, cool sounding music. We've got a nice background. We've got our new noisemaker with a little railroad sound. We've got our little special friend with a little ambulance sound. And of course, we have our extra sound effects whenever we need them. So we're going to get started here. All right.
I was tired of being someone's punching. Home. Home. Life of the Mobster. Heading. Show stats. Button.
Let's go check out our stats to start this episode.
Show stat. Life of the Mobster. Back button. Life of the Mobster. Back button. Stats. Heading. Achievements. Button. Monster. An associate for the Russo family living in a small apartment in New Daria. Age. 20 money. $2,000. Skills. Athletics. 40%. Automobiles. 0%. Fighting. 40%. Finance. 0%. Firearms. 0%. Intimidation. 10%. Legal. 0%. Medical. 0%. Perception. 0%. Persuasion. 25%. Streetwise. 30%. Subterfuge. 0%. Technology. 0%. Reputation. Police. 50%. Citizen. 70% criminal. 60%. Russo family. 60%. Sato family. 50%. Smirnov family. 50%. Rossi family. 50%. Martinez family. 50%. Relationships. My childhood friend. Taylor. 60%. My childhood sweetheart and girlfriend. Christine. 80%. A childhood acquaintance. Alexis. 70%. Kaporajime of the Russo family. Four Finger Nelson Harcourt. 60%. Boss of the Russo family. Terrence Silver Dollar DeLuca. 50%. Next. Button.
We have some good relationships being built. As usual, whenever we increase relationships, we'll hear this sound. And our character will, of course, say something really funny.
Next. Button.
Let's go.
Next.
Back to the story here.
Home. Back button. Home. Life of the Mobster. Show stats. I was tired of being someone's punching bag. I didn't want to waste one more minute in my dead-end life. Russo family reputation plus 10.
All right. We have joined the Russo family.
Four Finger Nelson did most of his business from a smoky bowling alley downtown called Lucky Lanes. The sounds of balls rolling down the alleys resounded loudly as I walked past several large men with beady eyes. When I told them my name, they stepped back and let me through. Good to see you again, Nelson said from a seat behind a small round table.
Good to see you again, young man. Come over here.
He was drinking from a glass with brown liquid, whiskey or scotch, I think. The other men were all quiet as I approached. They said nothing as I asked him for a job. He paused for a minute, looking me up and down.
Yeah, you want a job, huh? Yeah, you did good by me last time. Yeah, you definitely did good. Appreciate you. Let me think about this.
Done, he said after a moment's deliberation. He was drinking from a glass. Done, he said after a moment's deliberation. I called my sponsors and told them that I would no longer be competing. I knew I'd have a lot of explaining to do to my parents and girlfriend Christine. My new life as an associate for the Russo family had begun. Next chapter. Button.
All right. Moving on to the next chapter. We've joined the Russo family. Let's go.
Next chapter. Button. Next chapter. Button. Next. I got an apartment near Lucky Lanes. Show stats. But I got an apartment near Lucky Lanes. It wasn't much to look at, but it was my own and it was home. Nelson told me to buy a car and meet a guy named Jimmy Rockford.
All right. We got to get a car and meet a person named Jimmy Rockford.
I made a down payment on a souped-up Ford Mustang. Needs $1,500. Radio button. Check. 1 of 6.
Oh, look at this sweet vehicle. Yeah, Mustang. This thing looks tight. Yeah, I want this. Yeah. We need $1,500. Man, this thing's expensive.
I made a down payment on a fuel-efficient Tesla Model S electric car. Needs $1,000. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 6.
Tesla's for suckers.
I made a down payment on a sturdy Ford F-150 pickup truck. Needs $500. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 6.
Nah, too slow. Good for ramming, though.
I made a down payment on a bright yellow Volkswagen Beetle. Needs $300. Radio button. Unchecked.
That's
4
for
of 6.
punks.
I made a down payment on an old Dodge Caravan minivan. Needs $200. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 6.
No, thank you.
All I could afford was a rusted-out Honda Civic hatchback. Radio button. Unchecked. 6 of 6.
What am I, an Uber driver? Hell no. Hell to the no. I don't think so.
We'll take the Mustang, please.
I made a down payment on a I made a down payment. I made a down. I got an apart. Show stats. I made a down pay. I made a down payment on a souped-up Ford Mustang. Needs $1,500. Radio button. Check. 1 of 6.
Okay.
Next button. It was a sweet ride with the ferocious V8 engine.
Oh yeah, listen to that sound. Ooh, mommy's gonna love these cars. Oh yeah, baby, I'm gonna take care of you. Nothing's gonna hurt you. Maybe a little action in the back seat occasionally, but that's about it. Oh, I'm gonna teach you sweet. Listen to that engine. Sounds good.
Lost $1,500 and gained the Mustang. Jimmy the Carrot Rockford was a 40-year-old health nut from New Daria. I met him for the first time at a diner called Wilma's that wasn't too far from the Lucky Lanes. He was a made man, which meant that he'd been initiated and accepted into the Russo family. That meant that he was untouchable. If anyone messed with Jimmy, without silver dollars, okay, they were worm food. I, on the other hand, was an associate. That meant that I was little more than a tool for the real mobsters. I was disposable and had no pull besides my connections to some important people. Jimmy was waiting for me with an egg white omelet, whole wheat toast with no butter, and orange juice instead of coffee. Hey, monster, have a seat.
Monster, come over here. Sit down. Yeah. Thank you, Jimmy.
I ordered quinoa oatmeal with agave syrup and a glass of soy milk. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Quinoa.
I ordered the special. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 3.
That sounds better.
I ordered a black coffee and nothing else. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3.
Need to get some energy into my stomach if I'm gonna be ready for my work.
Next. Button.
Let's get ourselves to special. Be ready.
I ordered the special. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 3. Check. I ordered a black. Next. Button. The waitress nodded at me and then returned to the kitchen without even bothering to write it down. Jimmy made no comment about my order as my food arrived a short time later. So, Four Finger says you're looking for work. He said after the meal was done. Good. Let's go. You're driving.
Oh, I missed an opportunity. He's a health nut. I should have ate some healthy food. He would have liked that better. Oh, man, I messed up already. Duh, man, he's a health nut. I should have got healthy food. First mistake.
I knew that Jimmy likely owned an expensive car or two of his own, but that didn't matter. He wanted me to drive and that meant that we had to use my Mustang. He made no comment about my nice car as he got in. I think he expected young people to have flashy rides like mine.
I'm not an ass kisser, though. He'll have to get used to that.
Jimmy relationship +5. We didn't go far before he had me pull over in front of Flowers for You. He waved for me to come in and we entered the store. The woman behind the counter seemed friendly as she handed Jimmy an envelope. We left and went to the next store, where another envelope was waiting. It was a classic protection and extortion racket. The business owners paid their money, or things got broken. And, if they had any troubles that the law couldn't fix, Jimmy helped them out. The morning went by quickly. It was just after lunch when we visited Lenny's deli. Lenny was a short bald man with gray hair. I knew something was up the instant we stepped inside. He was busy, with a dozen customers lined up at his register. Unlike our previous visits, Lenny gave us no more attention than a brisk shake of his head. Jimmy turned to me, likely curious to see how I'd handle my first obstacle. I ignored the customers and smashed Lenny's head against the cash register a few times. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 3. I politely asked Lenny to come into the back room. Needs 10 persuasion. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 3.
We gotta get this dude to pay. I guess I gotta prove myself for the first time here. I could bash his head, screw up the business, which is not what we want. We don't want attention. I need to show I have some expertise, some ability to speak up. So maybe we should just go to the back and talk about this.
I waited patiently to see how Jimmy would handle it. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3.
I could wait for Jimmy to do it, but I need to step up.
Next. Button. I waited patiently to see how Jimmy would handle it. I politely asked Lenny to come into the back room. Needs 10 persuasion.
Let's ask him to come to the back room.
I waited patiently to see how Jimmy... I ignored the customers and smashed... I politely asked Lenny to come into the back room. Needs 10 persuasion. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 3. Check. Next. Button. The bald man looked like he wasn't going to listen at first, but then he agreed. I didn't even need to say very much. Once we were alone, he suddenly became very reasonable. He took out an envelope from his apron and passed it to me. I handed it to Jimmy and we left the deli, driving to the next place.
There we go. We got our money. I'm glad I didn't have to hurt this dude, man. He might have died, man. I don't need to catch a case.
Persuasion +5 and Russo family reputation +5.
Oh, nice double.
The title the newspapers liked to use was Soldier. Jimmy was a made man and his job was to earn money. Today he was a bagman, collecting tribute to send up the ranks to Nelson and then on to the Don, Terrence DeLuca. That became a regular monthly outing for us, visiting the various rackets Jimmy had going and shaking them down for our share. A few days later found Jimmy and I met in a dark alley behind Flowers for You. The woman who owned the store said that she'd seen a scary young man hanging around her shop late at night. Since the store was under Jimmy's protection, he was asked to fix the problem. I'm not sure why the lady didn't call the cops, likely because she was under Jimmy's protection and any contact with the police was greatly frowned upon.
Yeah, we'll fix your problem for you, ma'am. No worries.
We were only in the alley for an hour when a skinny man with bad acne showed up. Jimmy had us wait a bit to see what was happening. It didn't take long before 2 street punks showed up and the 3 of them began to whisper. Items and cash were exchanged and the punks went on their way. Jimmy frowned as he strode confidently forward. You lost, friend, he asked the dealer. Free city, man, the skinny guy replied. Take a hike.
Are you lost, young man? Hey, it's a free country. Get out of our way, old man.
Jimmy looked at me expectantly. I cracked my knuckles and went to work on the guy's face. Needs 10 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5.
I think it's time for me to show what's up.
I told him we were undercover cops and that we were staking out the flower shop. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 5.
I ain't no popo.
I reasoned with the guy and asked him to do his business elsewhere. Needs 10 persuasion. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of
I'm
5.
talking to nobody like that. Gonna solve this the good old-fashioned way.
I knew the guy, so I asked him to leave. Needs 55 criminal reputation. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 5.
Yeah, but nah.
I let Jimmy deal with it. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 5.
He looked at me. It's time for me to do my job.
Next. Button.
Let's go ahead and bust some
I knew
faces.
the guy. I reasoned with. I cracked my knuckles and went to work on the guy's face. Needs 10 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5.
I think we have 10 fighting. Let's double check to be sure.
Life of the Mobster. Heading. Show stats. Button. Show stat. Fighting. 40%.
Oh yeah, we got enough.
Life of the Mobster. Stats. Heading. Next. Button. Next. Jimmy looked at me I cracked my knuckles and went to work on the guy's face. Needs 10 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5. Next. Button. He didn't put up much resistance as I laid into him. A few minutes later found me standing over his bleeding body as Jimmy leaned over him.
That's what you get. Get the hell up.
He didn't put up much resistance as I laid into him. A few fighting plus 5, criminal reputation minus 5, citizen reputation plus 5, Jimmy relationship plus 5, and Russo family reputation plus 5.
We got a lot of rep, but we lost a little rep. In the criminal world, we lost a little rep.
This is Russo territory, he said. If I see you here again, you will be leaving by ambulance. Get lost. Fighting plus 5. This is Russo territory, he said. If I see you here again, you will be leaving by ambulance. Get lost.
Get lost. Don't come back over here. Next time you won't be able to get up. You'll be leaving by ambulance.
We got back into my Mustang and went home. The owner of Flowers for You was happy to have her problem solved.
Thank you. You're welcome, ma'am. Just let us know if we can do anything else to help. I will. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Tell the Russo family we said thank you. We will. We'll be back. Usual time. We'll be ready.
This was how my days went, working as Jimmy's driver and bodyguard. I even got a regular paycheck from a legal source. Naturally, it was a no-show job that gave me laundered money and a title. My pay stub said I was the assistant manager for New Daria Airlines International Freight Storage Department. Sure, I had no office, no subordinates, no responsibilities and no tasks to perform, but I still got a paycheck once a week. It was a good system. Gained $2,000.
Oh, yeah.
I paid my income taxes every year. Needs $1,000. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Right. Yeah, I gotta pay my taxes to the man. Man, it sucks. But you gotta pay or you get too much attention.
I used my knowledge of taxation to legally recalculate my taxes. Needs 20 finance. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. 2
I
of
don't
3.
have any finance knowledge, so I don't know how to do these numbers.
I never paid any income taxes. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3.
Yeah, I could get some rep if I don't pay at all.
Next. Button.
I'm gonna pay for now till I get a little bit more rep.
I never paid any income. I used my knowledge of taxation to legally recalculate my taxes. I used my knowledge of taxation to legally recalculate my taxes. I paid my income taxes every year. Needs $1,000. I paid my income taxes every year. Needs $1,000. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3. Next. Button. Next. I knew what happened to Al Capone and show stats. Button. I knew what happened to Al Capone and I wasn't going to suffer the same fate. Sure, it bothered me to send nearly half my check to the government, which ironically used the money to fund police forces and FBI agents to try to catch me, but I knew it was the safe thing to do. Besides, I still got paid cash under the table as well. By the time I paid all my bills though, I didn't have a lot left. During those early days. Lost $1,000. Christine was still in college studying history, of all things. She was extremely angry at me when she learned I stopped training to become an MMA fighter. She lost her anger when I showed her my first paycheck from New Daria Airlines. I didn't tell her the truth about my new life. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Nah, girl needs to know what's up. We need to tell her the truth. We don't need to lie. She's always had our back. She knows we do dirt.
I told her the truth about my role as an associate of the Russo family. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of... I knew she'd never accept my new life. So we broke up. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3.
Nah, we gotta have a straight girl.
keeping an eye on the homestead.
I told her the truth about my role as an associate of the Russo family. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3. Check. Next. Button. Uncheck. Life of the Mobster. Heading. Show stats. But I had been honest with Christine when I was a mugger in high school, and I was determined to be honest this time too. She didn't take the news well. I was very fortunate that we didn't break up at that time. Luckily, we had a strong relationship, and my honesty helped to make it even stronger. Christine relationship +5.
All right.
As the days went by, I met everyone else in the crew who worked under Four Finger, such as Dana Pipes Mancini, Freddie the Rose Johnson, Digger Doug Francesco, Lisa the Hat Torelli, and many others. Most of my time was spent sitting around Lucky Lanes and shooting the shit. I know that some associates were happy enough to just take in the money from their connections, but I wanted more. I wanted to be made. That meant that I had to start bringing in money for the family. I sought out a business that wasn't currently under our protection. Radio button. Check. 1 of 7. I got a tip from Freddie about a drug supplier in Texas. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 7.
I could talk to Freddie about this drug dealer, or I could maybe look for my own business to make a little side money.
I considered loaning money. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 7.
Loaning money could make me a little money on the side like a loan shark. That's a really smooth move.
I met my first corrupt police officer. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 7.
I don't want to deal with the cops right now.
I looked into gambling. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 7.
I ain't no good with the dice.
I bought a gun. Radio button. Unchecked. 6 of 7.
I do need a gun.
I didn't do anything else. Radio button. Unchecked. 7 of 7.
Hard choice.
I got it. I looked in. I met my first. I considered loaning money. I got a tip from Freddie about a drug supplier. In Texas. I sought out a business that wasn't currently under our protection. Radio button. Check. 1 of 7.
Let's go for a business. Let's see if we can get our own little business going.
I sought out a business that wasn't currently under our protection. Radio button. Check. 1 of 7. I looked in. I got a gun. I didn't do it. Next. Button. It was a cyber cafe called Coffee and Corks that had just opened in our neighborhood. It had free Wi-Fi and tablets for their patrons to borrow while they drank their expensive coffee. I got the go-ahead from Nelson to bring them in.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I went after hours and found the owner working through the cords attached to his wireless routers with the chairs stacked on the tables. He was in his early 20s and had wireframe glasses and a retro Atari logo t-shirt. I knocked on the door and stepped in. We were all alone. I explained who I was and that I represented Don DeLuca of the Russo family. Marty knew who that was, but said that he wasn't interested in protection.
Oh no, dude. You are interested in protection. You're very interested in protection.
I started throwing the chairs through the front windows. Needs 10 intimidation. Radio button. Check. I explained the perks of such a relationship. Needs 10 persuasion. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 5.
Try to persuade him first. If that doesn't work, other things might happen.
I helped him set up his network. Needs 10 technology. Dimmed. Radio button. Uncheck. 3. I noticed that he was very interested in hearing about mobsters, so I told him some stories. Needs 10 perception. Dimmed. Radio button. Uncheck. 4 of 5.
Perception. I could tell this dude some stories. He'd probably lose his mind hearing about all my dirt.
I decided not to extort the new business. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 5. I went after hours and it was a cyber cafe. Show stats. Life of the mob. Show stats. Button. It was a site. I went after hours. I started throwing the chairs through the front. I explained the perks of such a relationship. Needs 10 persuasion. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 5.
Let's persuade if we can.
Check. I helped him set. I noticed that he was very interested in hearing of. Next. Button. Next. As a business under our protection, he wouldn't be cheated by his suppliers, competition, or city officials. I could help him with food and safety inspections and make sure that his internet service provider didn't raise the prices too high. All of those little things that made running a business so much easier. He agreed and we shook hands. He would be paying a fair tribute to the Russo family, through me, on a monthly basis. My cut would be small, but it was a start.
Oh yeah, time to get into business. I'm gonna own this town.
Persuasion +5 and protection/extortion rackets +1. I got a tip from Freddie about a drug supplier in Texas. Radio button. Check.
Now we
6.
gotta go see if we can make a little bit of money with some side stuff. Maybe these drugs can pan out and get ourselves some more business.
Persuasion. I got a tip from Freddie about a drug supplier in Texas. Radio button. Check. 1 of 6. Next. Button. Next. Life of the Mobster. Heading. Show stats. Drugs are a funny thing. Some crime families stay from them entirely. Others focus exclusively on them. Don DeLuca was a pragmatic man. He liked the money that drugs could bring in, but he heeded the dangers as well. It was known that doing drugs was heavily frowned upon, but making money from them was okay, as long as it didn't bring in too much heat, and even then, he didn't care for it.
All right, we better be careful. He doesn't like the drugs, so maybe we should stay away.
I went to Texas. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I ignored the tip. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2.
Let's not bring in too much heat. He doesn't like drugs. We won't work on the drugs.
Next. Button. I ignored the tip. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2. Next. Button. I ignored the tip. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2. Check. Next. Button. Uncheck. Freddy the Roast didn't follow up on it. Show stats. Freddy the Roast didn't follow up on it himself, which made me think that it was probably a good idea to not get involved. Russo family reputation +5. I considered loaning money. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5.
They seem to like money around here. I could do a little side business, maybe loan some money, get paid back.
I met my first corrupt police officer. Radio button. Uncheck. 2. I considered loaning money. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5.
Let's loan some money.
I looked into gambling. I bought a gun. I didn't do anything. Next. Button. Next. Loan sharking was a time-honored tradition. The banks would only loan to people who would pay them back, so that left lots of room for us. Drug habits, gambling debts, and other vices were mixed with new business loans, home renovations, and vacations. I didn't care what they wanted the money for. All I cared was that they paid my extremely high interest rates. And if they didn't, well, that's where the banks got it wrong. They sent little red slips and made polite phone calls. We broke kneecaps. I had $1,500. I decided to loan. Ellipsis.
All right, we got to decide how much we're going to loan out, but we need to leave some money because we do need to get a gun.
Text field. Next. Button. Next. Text field. Double tap to edit. Use the rotor to access misspelled words.
All right, let's lend out. Let's lend out, say about, let's keep our money reasonable. Let's lend out about, not lend, but let's loan out 500.
Next. Button. Next. Button. Next. Text field. Double tap to edit. Insertion point at end. Period. 3, 4, 5, 6, 5. 5. Left paren. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. 0. 0.
500's good.
Loan sharking was a time-honored tradition. Heading not found. I had 1,500. Text field. Is edit. Next. Button. Next. Button. Next. Button. Next. Life of a Mobster. Heading. Show stats. It was a nice start. My Shylock business had begun. I met my first corrupt police officer. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
Let's see how this police thing goes. See if the family likes this kind of thing.
It was a nice. I met my first corrupt police officer. Radio button. Check. I looked into gambling. I bought a gun. I didn't do anything else. Radio button. Uncheck. 4. Next. Button. I knew Detective Keith Mason was a plainclothes officer who always seemed to be in the neighborhood. He was constantly pestering the working girls and checking various businesses' liquor licenses. I realized early on that with a guy like him in my pocket, I would be better off. I could sick him on businesses or people not under our protection, and he could tell me if other police officers were getting too interested in me. Unfortunately, corrupted police didn't come cheap.
Uh-oh. I don't know if we have enough money for this dude.
I knew him and started paying him off. Needs $400 and 65 police reputation. Dim. Radio button.
No, we
Uncheck.
don't have the
1 of 3.
reputation. We don't know the cops well enough.
I began paying him off. Needs $800. Radio button. Check. 2 of 3.
Expensive.
I kept my eye on him, planning to bribe him as soon as I had the money. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3. Next. Button.
Hard decision.
I kept my eye on him, planning to bribe him as soon as I had the money. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3.
I don't want to use up all my money at once.
Next. I kept my eye on him, planning to bribe him as soon as I had the money. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3. I began paying him off. Needs $800. Radio button. Check. 2 of 3.
I want to maybe look into a gun and gamble. Don't know if I want to go too heavy.
I kept my eye on him, planning to bribe him as soon as I had the money. Radio button. Uncheck. 3
We'll
of
think
3.
about it. We'll think about it.
Check. Next. Button. Next. Money was tight in those early days. Everyone had their hand out, so I found myself having to prioritize. A bribed police officer would have been useful, but I couldn't afford to get everything I wanted all at once. I looked into gambling. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Let's find out how much a gun is.
I bought a gun. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3. Check. I didn't do anything. Next. Button. Next. I wasn't sure if I could actually kill a person with it, but I knew that I needed the protection. It was foolish to be in my line of work and not carry a piece. I bought a massive 44 Magnum. Needs $1,000. Radio button. Check. I bought a functional Glock .45. Needs $500. Radio button. Unchecked. 2. Jimmy gave me a cheap Phoenix Arms HP 22A. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3.
I don't want a cheap gun.
Next. Jimmy, I bought a functional Glock .45. Needs $500. Radio button. Unchecked.
We'll
2
get
of
this
3.
Glock.
Check. Jimmy gave me a next button. Next. I figured that if it was good enough for the police to use, it would suit me just fine. It had a nice weight and it had some power. Best of all, I knew that it would fire if I needed it too. Gained the Glock .45 and lost $500. I looked into gambling. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2.
One more thing. Let's see what's going on with the money around here. Make a little money with gambling.
I didn't do anything else. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 2. Next. Button. Point. There was a lot of money to be made through gambling. Just look at Las Vegas. That was a dream for mobsters. Fully legal. Those people made billions and even get looked at as respectable citizens now. I couldn't even hazard a guess as to how many bribes were needed to corrupt an entire country into allowing such a thing to happen. Point shaving and match fixing were great money makers, but simple bookmaking was a nice start. People liked being paid in cash and not paying taxes. We also allowed people to bet on credit, setting our interest rates to whatever we liked and using our own collection methods. I hired someone. Need $750. Dimmed. Radio button.
We don't have
Unchecked.
enough.
1 of 3. I found an unaffiliated bookie and beat up her protection for everyone to see. Needs 20 intimidation or 30 fighting. Radio button. Check. 2 of 3.
Maybe we do this.
I didn't get into the business right away. Radio button. Unchecked. I found an unaffiliated bookie and beat up her protection for everyone to see. Needs 20 intimidation or 30 fighting. Radio button. Check. 2
Let's
of 3.
go beat up her bookie.
I found an unaffiliated bookie and beat up her protection for everyone to see. Needs 20 intimidation or 30 fighting. Radio button. Check. 2 of 3. Check. Next. Button. Dang, it was her own fault for working independently. You just don't do that in New Daria. Julia Larson was a quick learner and quickly knew where her best interests lay. Once I publicly put her goons out of commission, she was happy to work with me. She started taking bets under new ownership immediately.
Oh yeah. Now you work for me. I'm gonna own this city.
It was her own fault for work. Intimidation +5, fighting +5, bookies +1, and heat +25.
Uh-oh. A little heat's not good.
In addition to working with Jimmy, side deals were always showing up. One of the first came to me through pipes. Dana Mancini was a tough chick. Her nickname didn't come from her singing voice. Early in her career, a few guys from another family thought that she'd be soft because she was a woman. She arrived at each of their houses with a lead pipe in her hands and corrected that false notion.
Yeah, I like mommy. She knows how to take care of it. You don't mess with some chicks, man. You know, our girl Taylor, she'll bring that pipe to your head too. She can kick, man. Man, don't mess with somebody just because you think they're soft. You better make sure.
She came to me in my first year because her profit margins from a trusted bookie had suddenly dropped over the last few months. We drove to the guy's house in my Mustang, which she loved.
Yeah, you like it? It's nice, but I got business to take care of. Them. You and me, maybe we'll talk after. I don't know, man. I got a lot of things to do today. We better get this done quick. I'm all about my business, you know?
Dana relationship +10. He said that some kid had started an online betting site and that a lot of her customers preferred to go there instead. This infuriated Pipes, since she had no idea how to find the kid. It wasn't hard to go on the site and find his location, if you knew how. Needs 15 technology. Dimmed. Radio button.
Man.
Unchecked. 1 of 4.
I don't understand how technology works. I need to get better at this. I could have found this guy.
He said that it wasn't hard to go on the site and find his location, if you knew how. Needs 15 technology. Dimmed. Radio. We spoke to one of the bookie's regular customers who had stopped betting. Radio button. Checked. 2 of 4.
There we go.
I asked some of the people I knew if they had heard about this site. Needs 65 criminal reputation. Dimmed. Radio button. I asked some of the people I knew if they had heard about this site. Needs 75 citizen reputation. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 4.
Oh, citizens. Citizens might know. We could use our citizen connection, or we can ask a person here. Let's use our citizen connection.
I asked some of the people I knew if they had heard about this site. Needs 75 citizen reputation. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 4.
Okay, I think we got enough citizen. Let's check.
In addition to working with Jimmy, Life of a Mobster. Show stats. Button.
Let's see if
Show
we have
stats.
enough
Life
citizen.
of a Mobster. Back button. Cat Bell. Finance. Firearms. 0. Intimidation. Finance. Fighting. 50. Automobiles. 0. Athletics. 40%. Skills. Firearms. Intimidation. 50. Legal. 0%. Medical. 0%. Perception. 0%. Persuasion. 35%. Streetwise. 30%. Subterfuge. 0%. Technology. 0%. Reputation. Police. 50%. Citizen. 75%.
Oh, we do have enough citizen reputation.
Life of the Mobster.
That's
Back
good.
button. Stats. Life of the Mobster. Back button. Life of the Mobster. He said that some kid had. It wasn't hard to. We spoke to one of the bookie. I asked some of the people I knew if they had heard about this site. Need 65 criminal reputation. I asked some of the people I knew if they had heard about this site. Need 75 citizen reputation. Radio button. Uncheck. 4 of 4. Check. Next. Button. I had wondered how an online bookie had managed to secure so much business in the local neighborhood. It didn't take long to find the answer. There were dozens of people who said that a 19-year-old kid had been handing out flyers all around the city. We got a description and started looking. We found him later that day. The look on Dana's face was horrifying. I almost felt sorry for the punk. Citizen reputation +5.
All right.
I talked to him about his system. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
Maybe we can take this kid and make him work for us. I don't know. I think we should just kill him.
We dragged him into a dark alley and beat him senseless. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 4. We beat him up right on the street for everyone to see. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 4. I kindly explained to the kid how his actions were dangerous to his health. Radio button. Uncheck. 4. Next. Button. We beat him up right on the street for we dragged him into a dark I talked to him about his system. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
Maybe we can learn something before we beat the hell out of him.
Citizen I talked to
He
him
is
about his
just a
system.
kid.
Radio button. Check. 1 of 4. I kindly explain. Next. Button. Next. Pipes was like a kid who had to go to the washroom. She danced from foot to foot as the boy spilled all of the details. He knew he was in trouble, so he talked and he talked a lot. Technology +5 and Dana relationship -5.
Oh, man, Dana, come on now. He's just a boy, man. We don't want to hurt this kid if we can help it. We need to learn about this technology.
We dragged him into a dark alley and beat him senseless. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Young man, I hate to tell you this, though. Gotta tell you, this ain't gonna feel good, but I got other people, other responsibilities to take care of.
We beat him up right on the street for everyone to see. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3. Check. I kindly explained to the kid how his act. We beat him up right on the street for everyone to see.
Get too much
Radio
heat.
button. Check. I kindly explained to the kid how we dragged him into a dark alley and beat him senseless. Radio button. Uncheck. 1 of 3.
Let's go into the alley, take
Check.
care of this. We already got a little heat in us already.
We beat. Next. Button. Fred, he was no match for the two of us. Dana really worked the kid over. It was his own fault. He should have known better than to steal away customers from a mob-connected bookie. Intimidation +5 and Dana relationship +10. Sometimes business and pleasure crossed unexpectedly, like the day Freddie the Rose asked me to come with him to see one of his business associates. He always dressed in the most expensive 3-piece suits and often carried a fancy walking stick. He was a real dandy. He asked me to wear something nice and then had me pick him up at his house. He got into my Mustang with satisfied look on his face. I think he liked my car. Freddie relationship +5. We drove to the outskirts of New Daria and then down the private lane to a huge iron gate, which was wide open. There were a lot of expensive cars there and a valet ready to take my keys. It was a very elaborate and swanky party. Freddie tipped the valet a large bill and then strode confidently inside. I couldn't believe the number of celebrities I recognized. Movie stars, sports athletes, politicians. It was a who's who of popularity. Freddie led us to a very good-looking woman wearing a shimmering black dress. Monster, I'd like you to meet Jill Decker, he said.
Monster, say hello to Jill Decker. Hello, ma'am. Hello.
I recognized her from a sitcom on TV. Needs 20 perception. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. 1 of 3.
I know her from somewhere. That TV show, something. Oh, ladies of something. I don't know.
I nodded in greeting. Radio button. Checked. 2 of 3. I said, pleased to meet you, Miss Decker. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3. Next. Button. I said, pleased to meet you, Miss Decker.
I say pleased to meet you, Miss Decker. Freddie's told me a lot about you.
I said, next. Button. I nodded in greeting. I said, pleased to meet you, Miss Decker. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 3. Check. Next. Button. Jill is a movie star, Freddie said as he took a champagne flute from a passing waiter. She's been in 2 large Hollywood movies. All of the celebrity magazines say that she is one of the biggest rising stars of her generation.
Jill is a movie star, Monster. She's gonna be a star. She's big time. Yeah, I could tell. She's pretty good.
You're too kind, Jill said with a charming smile as she led Freddie and me into a small library away from the rest of the people.
You're too kind, Freddie. Why don't we go over here where it's more private?
Once we were away from the crowd, Jill became much more serious. She went to the desk and took a stack of papers out of the drawer. It was a movie script to a drama called A Kiss of Sunshine. I want the lead, Jill said with an unexpected ruthlessness.
Freddie, I want the lead to this movie. Oh.
Of course you do, Freddie said with a smile. And you'll get it, too.
Of course you do, Jill, honey. And you will get the role.
Freddie loved working with celebrities. Writers, singers, sports stars, actors and actresses for a fee. Freddie could help make their dreams come true. We drove to the casting director's home, beat up his security guard and threw him down the stairs. Needs 15 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5.
This is my kind of business. Go ahead, Monster. Take care of this. You got it, Freddie. Step aside. Let me take care and handle this. Excuse me, security. Hey, get out of here. Yeah, you shouldn't step up unless you're ready.
We scared away the other actresses interested in the role. Needs 15 intimidation. Radio button. On check. 2. We drove to the producer's house and I convinced him that Jill was the person for the role. Needs 20 persuasion. Radio button. On check. 3 of 5. I understood people and I knew that celebrities were easily influenced by party favors and blackmail. Needs $600. Dimmed. Radio button. There was nothing we could do to help her. We drove to the producer's house and I convinced him that Jill would. We scared away the other actresses interested in the role. We drove to the casting director's home, beat up his security guard and threw him down the stairs. Needs 15 fighting.
Yeah.
We drove to the casting director's home, beat up his security guard and threw him down the stairs. Needs 15 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5. Check. Freddie loved. We drove to the casting director's home, beat up his security guard and threw him down the stairs. Needs 15 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1 of 5. I understood people. There was nothing we. Next. Button. It wasn't easy. The security guard took a solid thrashing before he let us past, but he was nothing compared to the tough old casting director. He kept blabbing about artistic freedom even as he lay bleeding at the bottom of the stairs. Freddie and I took him by the arms and started to walk him back up the stairs again before he finally agreed to give Jill a private audition. We waited for the callbacks, and sure enough, Jill got the part. Freddie relationship +5, Jill relationship +10, and fighting +5. I have to admit, I could see why Jill Decker was a movie star. She had an amazing body, a perfect figure, full red lips and long soft brown hair that you wanted to run your fingers through. She was charming, intelligent, and funny too. Despite this, I wasn't attracted to her. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Well, you know.
Despite my attraction, I was loyal to Christine and didn't pursue my feelings. Radio button. On check. 2 of 3. I bugged Freddie until he gave me Jill's telephone number. Radio button. On check. Next. Button. Despite that, I have to admit, I could see why Jill Decker was a movie star. She had an amazing body, a perfect figure, full red lips and long soft brown hair that you wanted to run your fingers through. She was charming, intelligent, and funny too. Despite this, I wasn't attracted to her. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3. Despite my attraction, I was loyal to Christine and didn't pursue my feelings. Radio button. On check. I bugged Freddie until he gave me Jill's telephone number. Radio button. On check. 3 of 3.
Freddie might have to hook me up with the number here, you know what I'm saying? Gotta have a little side action, you know?
Next. I bugged Freddie until he gave me Jill's telephone number. Radio button. On check. 3 of 3. Check. Next. Button. I called Jill and asked her out. I don't know if she agreed because I had helped her get the part, or just because she found dating an up-and-coming mobster exciting. Who knows? Maybe she liked me for me. Either way, she said yes. We started seeing a lot of each other from then on. It didn't take long for Jill to learn about Christine. I was given a pretty clear ultimatum. I decided to stay with Christine. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I decided to dump Christine. Radio button. On check. 2 of 2. Next. Button.
Oh man, I got my mommy, you know, she's real. I stay real to my girl. I'm not leaving her for now. It's nice, it was nice, you were cool, but I gotta stay real.
Next. Button. I decided to dump Christine. Radio button. On check. I decided to stay with Christine. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I decided to dump. Next. Button. Next. It was exciting to see Jill in the trailers for A Kiss of Sunshine a few years later. I think Freddie did a few more jobs for her, but I never saw her again. The party at Jill's place wasn't the only place where I saw drugs. Many parties I went to had drugs readily available. I noticed that none of the made men ever partook. But I did. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2.
Nah, if I want to become a made man, I gotta stay away from the party favors.
And neither did I. Radio button. On check. 2 of 2. Check. Next. Button. I wasn't stupid enough to get into that mess. Taylor, on the other hand, got high at every opportunity.
Oh, Taylor, why you always gotta be into trouble?
Terrence Silver Dollar DeLuca, the Don of the Russo family, was a very cautious man. He never spoke to anyone unless they were fully initiated into the family. The first time I saw him in person was for his daughter's wedding. Janice DeLuca was a school teacher who was marrying a plumber. They had no involvement in the family business at all. Four Finger Nelson told me that none of Don DeLuca's 4 kids had followed in their father's footsteps. All of the maid men and women would be enjoying the festivities with their spouses, which meant that they needed trusted associates to keep things running smoothly. I was asked to help out. I offered to supervise the valets. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3. I offered to help with security. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3. I offered to check the invitations at the front door. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3. Next. Button. I offered to help with security. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3.
I'm gonna look into maybe I can do a little security, make a little money here.
I offered to help with security. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 3. Check. I offered to next. Button. It was rainy and miserable on the day of the wedding. I stood in a small hallway staring at people passing through on their way to the washroom. It wasn't very glamorous, but I suppose it was needed. Nobody did anything stupid that day. Why would they? Don DeLuca was not a man to be trifled with. Intimidation +5. During the dinner I was asked to go to the front gates. When I got there, I saw a small delivery truck with 3 crates of wine from Peru. I also saw a lot of police taking pictures of license plates, but since they stayed off the property, there wasn't much to be done about it. I accepted the delivery, but I wasn't going to take any chances, so I detained the delivery man while I checked it out. I took the packing slip into the wedding and saw the Don with his wife and family. I found Nelson, who looked very stylish in his black tuxedo, and asked what I should do. That's from the Don's son, Daniel, a wedding present for his sister, Nelson said with a smile. Come with me. He took me to Don DeLuca and introduced me personally. It was a great honor. The Don shook my hand and told me to fill a plate with food. He was a real nice guy. I nodded to the other people I knew in the wedding, filled a plate and returned to the driver to accept the wine. That was it. A 2-minute meeting. I was kept busy as I helped the maid men and women of the family. Taylor tried to do some jobs too, but after arriving drunk for a meeting and being late for another, they stopped calling her. She was just too unreliable. I'll admit, Taylor had her problems, but when push came to shove, you couldn't have asked for a better friend. I had been working as an associate for nearly 2 years when Taylor saved my life. We were having a few drinks at a bar across town when 5 heavily tattooed Japanese men came in. I'm sure you've heard of the Yakuza? No, these guys didn't belong to that group, but they were similar. They were members of the Sato family, one of the 5 families of New Daria. Funny thing was, I'm not even sure what I did to piss them off. All I know is that they picked up some pool cues on the way past a table and started swinging. I thought about my Glock .45 that I had hidden in my jacket pocket, but I didn't want to overreact in a simple bar fight. I took a solid hit, but it didn't put me down. Needs 10 athletics. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
Ugh! Little asshole! You better hit harder than that, punk.
I had seen the blow coming, so I ducked just in time. Needs 25 perception. Dim. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of... I punched the man in the face. Needs 20 fighting. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 4. I was knocked unconscious. Radio button. Uncheck. 4 of 4. Next. But I punched the man in the face. I had seen the blow coming, so I ducked just in time. Needs 25. I had seen the blow coming, so I ducked. I took a solid hit, but it didn't put me down. Needs 10 athletics. I had seen the blow. I punched the man. I punched the man in the face. Needs 20 fighting. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 4.
Punch him right in the face.
I punched the man in the face. Needs 20 fighting. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of. Check. I was next. Button. Next. It was no small feat to stand toe-to-toe against 5 guys with pool cues. I felt the man's nose crunch under my knuckles as he fell to the ground with blood streaming from both nostrils.
Ah! Yeah.
Fighting +5. We weren't stupid. Even though the odds were now 4-2, we were outnumbered and they had weapons. We ran straight for the door and out into the parking lot. The tattooed men were right behind us as we got into my Mustang. I slammed on the gas and peeled out of the parking lot. Needs 10 automobiles. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. A couple of good Samaritans stopped by to see what was happening. Needs 80 citizen reputation. Radio button. Check. 2 of 4. I hit the panic button on my keychain. Needs 15 technology. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. We weren't fast enough and they dragged us out before we could drive away. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 4.
Maybe our citizens can help us out, you know? Help a brother out.
Next. A couple of good Samaritans stopped by to see what was happening. Needs 80 citizen reputation. Radio button. Checked. 2 of 4. Checked. I hit. Next. Button. Unchecked. I hadn't seen the guys follow us out of the bar. They must have seen us getting attacked and thought they could help us. Unfortunately, the 2 guys were no match for the 4Q-wielding Sato men. They clubbed the 2 guys into submission. It gave Taylor and I just enough time to pull out of the parking lot. We saw the 4 men get into a sporty red Fiat and dart out after us. The chase was on. Citizen reputation +5. We sped through the streets of New Daria. I ignored a street light and immediately saw flashing red and blue lights erupt behind us.
Oh, god damn it! Why'd you do that? Now we got the popo on us. Shut up, Taylor. I got this.
The police's hatred of me actually saved us. Needs under 40 police reputation. Dim. Radio button. Unchecked. 1 of. The police helped me out. Need 70 police reputation. Dim. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 5. I took them into the side streets and alleys of my youth. Radio button. Checked. 3 of 5. I slammed into the police cruiser. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 5. The Sado men caught up to us. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 5. I took them into the side streets and the police helped me out. Need 70 police. I took them into the side streets and alleys of my youth. Radio button. Checked. 3 of 5.
Let's go into the alley. Maybe we can survive there.
I took them into the side streets and alleys of my youth. Radio button. Check. 3 of 5. Check. Next. Button. I didn't grow up in a fancy house. I lived and grew up on the streets. I knew my way around them better than the cops ever could. I lost them in no time. But no matter how complicated the streets, I couldn't lose the Fiat. I made it to Lucky Lanes and pulled over. Streetwise +5.
All right. I think we lost him.
I knew I was in trouble right away as the 4 men got out of their car and followed us to the front door. My heart leapt into my throat when I found the door locked. It was never locked. I later found out that the crew was having a family meeting for the boss, the capos and all the made men. I wondered if the Sado men had chosen that night for this very reason? I started to reach for my Glock .45. The explosion of gunfire nearly deafened me. It was followed immediately by another. I could hardly believe my eyes. My childhood friend, Taylor, had a massive Smith & Wesson hand cannon and was blasting away like an action movie hero. One of the men was lying dead in the street while the remaining 3 got back into their Fiat and sped away. Sado family reputation -40.
Oh! Taylor, where the hell you get that cannon from? Shut up, bitch. I've had this my whole life. While you've been running around with fancy-ass movie stars, I've been protecting myself on the street from all these dickheads. All right, Taylor. Man, very good, very good. Looks like I taught you something growing up. You ain't taught me shit. Well, thank you anyway. Welcome. Better be glad. Better know somebody.
We picked him up and put him in the back of my Mustang. We drove him out to the new Daria Bridge, stripped him of valuables and threw him over the edge. Besides the cash, I found a little silver key. Taylor sat down on the pavement at the side of the road with a dazed look in her eyes. My connections would likely protect me, especially since I hadn't done the actual shooting, but I knew that Taylor was in a lot of trouble. Gain $500 and a safety deposit box key. I said, Taylor, you have to get out of town and lay low. Radio button, checked, 1 of 2. I said, stick close to me and I'll keep you safe. Radio button, unchecked, 2 of 2. Next, button.
Taylor, I don't know what to do. If you leave town, they're gonna come looking for you. You just shot some people from the Satomi family. I know. But you were protecting me, so it's my responsibility. I'm gonna stick by you. You are? Yeah, of course. We grew up together. We did everything together. I got your back. Thanks, monster. I didn't mean what I said when I said she was a punk-ass bitch. You meant it. Don't try to be all soft and shit. Yeah, I did mean it. Stick close to me. We gotta be careful now. You got a target on your back now.
Next, button. I said, stick close to me and I'll keep you safe. I said, next, button. I said, Taylor, you have to get out of town and I said, stick close to me and I'll keep you safe. Radio button, unchecked, 2 of 2. Check, next, button. My words were suddenly cut off as Taylor pressed her lips firmly against my own. It was crazy. I kissed her back. Radio button, check, 1 of 2.
Whoa, Taylor, what the hell? Just shut up and kiss me.
I pushed Taylor away. Radio button, unchecked, 2 of 2. Next, but I kissed her back. Radio button, checked, 1 of 2. I pushed Taylor, next, button. I had known Taylor my entire life, but I had never thought about her in that way. I don't know if it was the thrill of danger or hidden feelings finally surfacing, but we clung desperately to each other on that bridge for some time. Taylor relationship +10. I couldn't help but think of poor kind-hearted Christine. As though she were reading my mind, she said, "What about your girlfriend?"
What about Christine, monster?
I told Taylor that I couldn't leave Christine. Radio button, checked, 1 of 2.
I'm not leaving Christine, that's my girl.
I told Taylor that I would break up with Christine. Radio button, unchecked, 2 of 2. Next, but I told Taylor that I couldn't leave Christine. Radio button, checked. Next, button. Nels, I won't be your second choice, Taylor said, her eyes full of emotion. I'm leaving town. When this has all blown over, we can talk again. A passing taxi pulled over and she got in. I watched as the cab drove off into the night, taking Taylor with it.
I don't want to be your second best, Monster. I've been in love with you my whole life. Why won't you choose me? I know you have feelings for me. Taylor, we're buddies. We maybe crossed the line, but I'm not going to leave Christine for you. I like you, but I don't like you like that. Well, I'm gone. I'll see you later. Thank you for at least thinking about it. Bye, Taylor. Bye, Monster.
I stayed in a cheap hotel for the night and presented myself to Nelson Harcourt at Lucky Lanes the very next day. My worst fears were true. The man Taylor had killed was a made man. Nelson gently slapped the side of my face and said that he was happy that I hadn't been the shooter. Nelson relationship +10. Things eventually got back to normal, although everyone stayed clear of the Sato family, whenever possible. I often found myself thinking about Taylor and wondering how she was doing. I hadn't forgotten about the little key I found. It had the acronym FNBND across it, which was easy to decipher as the First National Bank of New Daria. I was smart and waited across the street before going in. I felt that my caution was well-founded when I noticed a black sedan parked across the street with two men sitting inside. Whether it was local police or FBI, I knew that the security deposit box was too hot to open at that time. I drove by once a week or so after that, but the car never left.
Unless they want to get that key from me. I need to be careful if I want to get that money. I need to distract these feds, whoever these fools are.
Although it was nice to hang out with made men and women, sometimes it was even nice to be with other associates too. We associates weren't always treated very well. We were thought of as tools made to be used. Most associates strove to get their buttons and this made them work hard to show that they could be big earners. This was the reason Digger Doug and Lisa the Hat came to me one morning. They had a lucrative job that they wanted me to be a part of. A guy in Doug's apartment building was the owner of a sports store in a shopping mall. He was going to let us rob the store and then claim the loss through insurance. The plan was simple. The neighbor gave Doug the code to the alarm and a schedule of when the other merchants left for the night and arrived in the morning. There was a night watchman, but lucky for us, the watchman was old and rarely left the staff lounge. Lisa had a contact willing to buy the high-end sports equipment for a good price. It was a great opportunity for everyone involved. We stole a van and went to the mall. I offered to help Doug carry out the goods. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2.
All right, we get this money. We're going to make a little money. I got more things I need to take care of, like getting some police protection.
I offered to help Lisa deal with the security guard. Radio button. Unchecked. Next. Button. I offered to help Lisa deal with the security guard. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 2.
I don't beat up old men.
I offered to help Doug carry out the goods. I offered to help Doug carry out the goods. Radio button. Checked. 1. Next. Button. Things started out well enough as I helped Doug fill garbage bags full of expensive sports gear. On a whim, I checked the cash register. It was locked, but sitting beside it was a stack of credit card imprints. This was usually done electronically, but a few businesses still did it the old way. I knew some people who would buy these numbers and charge the hell out of the cards. I took the imprints, even though it would likely make Doug angry. Radio button. Checked. 1 of 2. I left the imprints where they were. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 2.
A little bit of money ain't never hurt anyone. I don't want Doug mad at me though, but I can't be always waiting for everybody to put Skrilla in my pocket.
I took the imprints, even though it would likely make Doug angry. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I left the imprint. Next. Button. Doug's neighbor would be covered for the stolen goods, but the carelessly neglected credit card imprints would get him into a lot of trouble. It wasn't part of the heist, so the proceeds from that particular find was all mine. Doug relationship -15, finance +5, and gained $600. I got back to work filling the garbage bag. I watched as Doug carried the first load to a different door. It was closer to where we had parked, but it was clearly labeled with the message "Fire alarm will sound if door is opened." It looked like we'd have to lug the stuff around to the door we had entered through. I watched in amazement as Doug peered at the message for a few moments and then flung open the door. The alarm sounded immediately. There was a gunshot down the hall as Lisa shot the security guard. Things were going from bad to worse. We grabbed the few bags we had filled and rushed out through the door to get into the van. We got away without getting caught, but with only 2 bags of goods, it was hardly worth the danger. To make matters worse, Doug and Lisa began to fight over who deserved the larger portion of the proceeds. I sided with Doug. Radio button. Check. 1 of. I sided with Lisa. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 5.
Man, I don't know who to take sides with. Both of you are a bunch of fools. I'm gonna talk to Lisa though. I'm gonna side with Lisa, dude.
I sided with neither and said that we should all get equal shares. Radio button.
Oh
Unchecked.
yeah, that's
3 of
a
5.
better choice.
I said that I sided with neither and said that I deserved the largest share because I hadn't made any mistakes like they did. I offered to take less of a share. Radio button. Uncheck. Next. I said that I deserved the largest share. I said that I deserved the largest share. I sided with neither and said that we should all get equal shares. I sided with neither and said that we should all get equal shares. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 5. Check. Next. Button. Uncheck. But this idiot messed up the entire plan, Lisa said angrily. You coward, Doug said to Lisa. You're the one who shot the old guy and turned a simple robbery into a homicide. They both had their points, but I didn't want anyone taking a larger share, since it would dig into my own cut. Lisa relationship -10, Doug relationship -10, and gained $1,000. It took a few days to figure out exactly what had happened, but after some thought I realized that Doug couldn't read. He was illiterate. I hope I haven't led you to believe that my every waking moment was filled with crime and business. I had a lot of free time to spend on other interests during my years as an associate. I regularly went to the shooting range. Radio button. Check. 1 of 9.
We need to get better with our gun.
I took up jogging. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 9.
I like jogging. I haven't done it since I was a kid.
I did volunteer work for the community. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 9.
Building my community relationship could be very valuable. Having some eyes in the back of my head, if you know what I mean.
I did stage productions for the local theater. Radio button. Uncheck. 4 of 9.
I did a few plays when I was growing up, but I'm not very good at acting.
I trained at a local dojo. Radio button. Uncheck. 5 of 9.
Training could be valuable.
I spent a lot of time visiting my friends in the big house. Radio button. Uncheck. 6 of 9.
Ooh, making some prison connections could be good.
I got my first aid certificate. Radio button. Uncheck. 7 of 9. I spent a lot of time in bars and coffee shops. Radio button. Uncheck. 8 of 9. I took a night class in programming at the local college. Radio button. Uncheck. 9 of 9.
I need to learn how to do computers.
Next. Button. I spent a lot of time. I got my first aid certificate. I got my first aid certificate. I spent a lot of time visiting my friends in the big house. I spent a lot of time visiting my friends in the big. I trained at a local dojo. Radio button. Uncheck. 5 of 9. Check. Next. Button. Next. I enjoyed the calming effect that martial arts had on me. After the trouble I had with Sato family, it made me want to learn to protect myself even more. Fighting +20. Christine graduated from school with her history degree and moved back to New Daria. Her top marks and winning personality landed her a job as an events planner for the city museum. It seemed like a lot of paperwork to me, always organizing class trips and special events, but she loved it. I asked her to marry me. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
Christine. Yes, honey. I want you to marry me. You know I'm dirty, and you know where I'm going, but I need you. I love you, and though I haven't always been faithful to you, you know I love you. I know.
I suggested that we move in together. Radio button. Uncheck. I left things the way they were and continued to date her. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 4. I broke up with her. Radio button. Uncheck. Next. But I suggested that we move into. I asked her to marry me. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4. I broke up. Next. Button. I was thrilled when Christine said yes. We had a wonderful ceremony and even her parents were happy. My fake job at the New Daria International Airport went a long ways towards making them feel more comfortable with me. Christine obviously never told them what I really did. Even when 24 mobsters came to the wedding, her parents never had a clue. They were all airport employees, as far as they knew. I felt bad that Taylor missed my wedding, but I still had no idea where she was. My feelings towards her were mixed as I remembered the kiss we shared on the bridge. My parents were there as well. I certainly never told them about my new life, so they too thought that I was an airport employee, which was fine by me. Even Four-Finger came. I had hopes that Don DeLuca might come, but I was just a lowly associate. He did send a card though. They were both very happy that I was settling down. They felt that such things made a person more trustworthy and appear more legitimate. The wedding gifts were amazing. We used most of the money to put a down payment on a small house in the neighborhood. Christine relationship +20, Russo family reputation +10, and gained $1,000. Those first years were difficult, financially. I was busy and I had a lot of new activities started which had the potential to grow into large operations. Yet I was always broke. That's why I really liked the one-timer jobs like the heist Jimmy the Carrot suggested. There was a truck of new iPhones coming into the city that he knew about.
Oh, iPhones, yeah. We need to steal all of them.
I sabotaged the truck. Needs 30 automobiles. Dim. Radio button. Unchecked.
I don't know how to
1 of
mess
5.
with any cars.
I brought the driver into the deal. Needs 30 persuasion. Radio button. Check. 2 of 5.
I could talk to the driver. I'm really good at smooth talking with people.
I ambushed the driver at a coffee shop. Beat him up and took his keys. Needs 30 fighting. Radio button. Unchecked. 3 of 5.
Could beat the guy up, but I don't want to hurt him if I don't have to.
I got a bunch of guys together and we hijacked it the old-fashioned way. Need 70 criminal reputation. Dimmed. Radio button. Unchecked. 4 of 5.
I don't know enough dudes to just take the truck.
Unfortunately, we never got our hands on those. Next. I got a bunch of guys together and we hijacked it. I ambushed the driver at a coffee shop. Beat him up and took his keys. Needs 30 fighting. I got a bunch of guys together. I brought the driver into the deal. Needs 30 persuasion. I ambushed the driver at a coffee shop. Beat him up and took his keys. Needs 30 fighting. Radio button.
I just saved your life. You better be glad I just beat the shit out of you. If you were in that truck, they'd probably kill you. Just stay here and don't move.
I got a bunch of guys together. Unfortunately, next. But I brought the driver into the deal. Needs 30 I ambushed the driver at a coffee shop. Beat him up and took his keys. Needs 30 fighting. Radio button. Check. Next. Button. Uncheck. He didn't expect someone to punch him in the fat gut while he was waiting for his cup of joe. When he fell to the ground, I kicked him a few times. As he lay groaning, I took his truck keys and went to the parking lot. A lot of innocent bystanders watched from a safe distance, but the cops didn't show up until after I left. Jimmy wasn't impressed with my indiscretion. The iPhones were sold to Jimmy's fence and we made a lot of money for the family and for ourselves.
I should have used a little bit more finesse.
Fighting plus 5. Gained $1,200. Jimmy relationship minus 5. And heat plus 25.
Oh, damn.
Another similar job came from Dana Mancini. She knew a golf pro who learned of a group of doctors who played a high-stakes poker game once a month in the clubhouse at his golf course. Her plan was simple. She wanted to beat them all up and take the money. She thought it was funny that she'd give injuries to doctors. She had a strange sense of humor. I agreed to her plan. Needs 50 fighting. Radio button. Check.
This is exactly what I'm good at doing. Yeah, I can do this job. I heard you're good at fighting. I'm very good at fighting.
Instead of stealing all their money, I suggested that we take a regular cut. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of... I suggested that I play poker with the doctors and win without cheating. Needs 10 subterfuge and 10 perception. Dim. I suggested that I play poker with the doctors and cheat with cameras. Needs 10 medical and 15 technology. Dim. I declined. Radio button. Instead of stealing all their... I agreed to her plan. Needs 50 fighting. I agreed to her plan. Needs 50 fighting. Radio button. Check. 1. I declined. Radio button. Unchecked. Next. Button. It wasn't difficult. They were mostly old men who weren't used to violence. We overturned their table and smacked them around. Dana laughed hysterically through most of it, but in the end, we left with a large bag stuffed with cash. Fighting plus 5, citizen reputation minus 15, gained $800, and Dana relationship plus 10. After the Sato incident, Four Fingers started buying a lot of weapons. I think that everyone was afraid that a war was coming. The fact that 5 of them jumped me and Taylor in that pool hall without provocation made everyone nervous. Jimmy had come down with the flu, so he asked me to go make the pickup in his place. It was the middle of the afternoon on a Wednesday and Grand Station was packed. The sounds of subway trains and people filled the air as I walked through the crowd. I saw my contact with a black duffel bag sitting on a bench at our appointed place. I sat down beside her and turned to face her. I nearly fell off the bench when I saw the familiar face under the blonde hair. It was Alexis, the kid I'd grown up with. She was a little older, but still in excellent shape. The person I was supposed to meet was named Grace.
Alexis, is that you? Monster, you look good. Looks like married life has done you well. Man, I haven't seen you in a long ass time. You look good. Taking care of yourself, I see. Seems like you're taking care of yourself too.
I said in a friendly voice, Alexis, how've you been? Radio button. Check. 1 of 3. I said angrily, what the hell are you doing here, Alexis? Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 3. I kept my wits and asked, you got the goods, Grace? Radio button. Unchecked. 3. Next. But I said angrily. I said angrily. What? I said in a friendly voice, Alexis, how've you been? I said in a friendly voice, Alexis, how've you been? Radio button. Check. Next. Button. Next.
How you been, girl?
I noted the surprise in her eyes as well. I don't think she expected me there that day. I'm good, Monster, she said with an awkward smile.
I'm good, Monster.
Alexis relationship plus 5. You bring the money? Alexis asked as she slid the black duffel bag towards my feet.
You got the money?
I didn't like the way this was going down at all. The wrong name, a familiar face, practically handing me the merchandise without getting paid first. Everything seemed wrong. I said cautiously, yeah, I have it. Radio
I got
button.
the money.
Check. 1 of 3.
I don't like this though. Why is Alexis just bending over so easily? This doesn't make any sense.
She's not acting like she's got any street smarts. I could just take everything. What would she do? Unless this is a setup.
I feigned ignorance. What money? Radio button. Uncheck. I tried to get a deal. Since I knew her. I don't have all of it. Radio button. Uncheck. Next. Button. I said cautiously. Yeah, I have it. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3.
Yeah, I have the money.
I tried to get it. Next. Button. Next. I didn't reach for it and I kept an eye on Alexis, trying to figure out her game. It's all there, Alexis said, lifting the duffel bag from the ground and placing it on the bench between us.
All the money's here.
I had no doubt now. Something was wrong. I ignored the bag and left without a word. Radio button. Check. 1 of 3. I said, screw you, Alexis, and left. Radio button. I said, nice seeing you again, but I have to go, and left her on the bench holding the bag. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3.
It was nice seeing you, Alexis.
Next. I said, nice seeing you again, but I have to go, and left her on the bench holding the bag. Radio button. Uncheck. 3 of 3. Check. Next. Button. Well, we should have coffee sometime. Alexis said, we should have coffee sometime. Alexis said as I walked away.
We should have some coffee sometime, Monster.
Alexis relationship +5. I wasn't sure what had happened at first. That night, I met Alexis again. This time, she was waiting for me in her car outside my small house. She was wearing expensive and stylish clothing, as usual. I idly wondered just how much she worked out. She was tall and athletic and looked like a professional athlete during a press conference. She took off her sunglasses as I approached. Well, isn't this awkward? Alexis said, showing me her FBI badge. You blew my cover. That was supposed to be my entrance into the Russo family.
FBI, I should have known.
That was the day I learned that my old childhood acquaintance Alexis had become an undercover FBI agent. I cursed myself for an idiot as I thought about the different things I had said to her, replaying the words in my mind and trying to think how incriminating it had been. I knew that I wasn't in big trouble, since I hadn't made the exchange, but it still wasn't good. My mere presence on that bench was enough to get me on their radar. B plus 50.
Oh, damn.
Flippantly, I said I guess you'll be getting a new assignment now. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4. I said, well, it's still nice to see you again, Alexis. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of... I said nothing. Radio button. I said, flippantly. I said I guess you'll be getting a new assignment now. Radio button. Check. 1 of 4.
I guess you'll be getting a new assignment since you didn't catch me.
I spat on her. Next. Button. Just a small change. Really, Alexis said. I've been studying the Russo family for years. I should have expected that you might show up to make the exchange.
I should have known you'd be there. I made a miscalculation.
It was a little unsettling to think that the FBI had been watching me all this time and I had only noticed now. I should thank you, she said. Since they can't use me for undercover work and I'm fully trained about your operations, they promoted me to assistant special agent in charge of the task force to bring you and your buddies down. I said, why don't you come inside and we can talk? Radio button. Checked. 1 of 3. I said, good luck with that, and went inside. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of... I said, you'll end up in a shallow grave pit, and went inside. Radio button. Unchecked. Next. Button.
Why don't you come inside and talk, Alexis?
Next. Button. Unchecked. I think Alexis was surprised by this. It was a very dangerous move, on my part. If the others even suspected that I was having a friendly conversation with an FBI agent, they'd probably have me erased. We went inside and I put a pot of coffee on as I thought very carefully about my options. My entire life hung in the balance. If Freddie, Nelson, and everyone else even suspected what I was doing, they'd kill me. I said, I want to work with you. Radio button. Check. 1 of 6. I asked her what she'd been doing since high school. Radio button. Unchecked. 2 of 6. I said nothing incriminating and just sipped my coffee for the rest of the visit. I put some poison into her coffee. Radio button. I moved my chair close to Alexis and laughed at all her jokes as I flirted with her. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of 6. I tried to bribe Alexis. I moved my chair close to Alexis and laughed at all her jokes as I flirted with her. Radio button. Unchecked. 5 of... Checked.
Alexis, you're still as funny as ever.
I tried to... Next. Button. Next. Her athletic body and stylish clothes made it hard to concentrate on her words. I laughed at her jokes and brushed my hand against her leg a few times while we talked. I had never flirted with Alexis when we grew up, but now that we were both adults, it felt good. The fact that I was an aspiring mobster and she was a federal agent added an enormous amount of tension and spice to the idea. I tried not to think about Christine, who would be very upset if she learned what I was doing. Alexis relationship +10. I leaned over and then kissed her. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I continued to lightly flirt for the remainder of the visit. Radio button. Unchecked. Next. Button. I leaned over and then kissed her. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. Next. Button. Next. Alexis stood up quickly, dropping her coffee cup to the ground. It shattered into 1,000 pieces as she stepped away. Look, Monster, this isn't going to happen. I'm here to get your cooperation as an informant, nothing more.
Monster, I don't want anything else but your cooperation. I can bring you in and protect you, but nothing else.
I said, okay, I'll be an informant. Radio button, check. We finished our coffee as friends, but it didn't stop me from admiring her. Radio button, uncheck. 2 of 4. I told her to get the hell out of my small house. I was persistent, trying to kiss her again. Radio button, uncheck. We finished our coffee as friends, but it didn't stop me from admiring her. Radio button, uncheck. 2 of 4. Check. I was persistent. Next. Button. Just 2 old friends catching up. We didn't talk about our new lives or the new roles we were playing. It was nice to see someone from the old neighborhood. FBI reputation plus 15 and Alexis relationship plus 10. My days quickly went back to normal, despite the fact that I occasionally saw FBI agents watching me from a distance. Coincidentally, it was just a few days after seeing Alexis again when I had my first private meeting with Don DeLuca himself. I have to admit, I wasn't sure if I was being whacked for speaking to an FBI agent or being made. Both extremes seemed possible. It turned out to be neither. I sat across the large red oak desk in a soft leather chair in Terrence DeLuca's home on the outskirts of New Daria. Thank you for coming, Monster, Don DeLuca said. Do you take drugs?
Thank you for coming, Monster.
The abrupt question came out of left field.
Are you taking drugs?
I told the truth and said, no. Radio button, check. 1 of 2.
Nah, Don, I don't take drugs.
I lied and said, yes. Radio next, button. Filthy habit, he said. I'm glad that you learned to stay away from them.
That's a dirty habit, boy. Glad you don't take those. That's good. I don't trust guys who do drugs. Yes, Don.
Don DeLuca relationship plus 10. My son, Daniel, is a major league screw-up, he confided. I put him through dozens of rehab centers and after one painfully embarrassing incident, I disowned him. He's living in Peru now and I haven't seen him for 5 years, not even for Janice's wedding. I got a message saying he's in trouble. The problem is, I vowed to never help the idiot again. But I still love my son. I can't let the family help him or I'd be breaking my word. But you aren't made yet. I listened carefully as he explained the situation. His son had been smuggling cocaine into the States. He hid bags of the stuff in unsuspecting tourist suitcases and a partner took them out when they got across customs. The problem was, his contact at New Daria International had missed a bag. He was scared out of his mind because he had sloppily left fingerprints on the bags and was afraid that the police were going to find it. He was probably high when he packed it. I hate the stuff, Don DeLuca said. I want you to get it and destroy it, fingerprints and all. I still love my boy and I don't want him to go to prison. I drove to Mr. and Mrs. Lena's house. That was the name on the luggage. The message had said. The Linas had gotten home only 2 hours before I arrived. It was the middle of the afternoon when I pulled up in front of their comfortable little bungalow. I waited until nightfall. Radio button, check. 1 of 2.
I should maybe wait till nighttime.
I walked directly into the house. Radio button, unchecked. 2 of 2.
I got a lot of heat on me right now. I better keep it low key.
Next, button. I walked directly into the house. Radio, I waited until nightfall. Radio button, check. Next, button, check. I waited quietly outside, praying that they wouldn't find the drugs and call the cops. I had some half-baked ideas of rushing in and taking away the package. If I saw cop cars pull up, the longer I waited, the more foolish I felt. Finally, it got dark enough for me to feel safe enough to break in. The locked door was no trouble. It was a warm evening and they had left a window in the living room partly open. I opened it the rest of the way and crawled through. I took out my gun and walked quickly to the bedroom. I heard the soft snores of someone in bed and saw the bright floral print suitcases laying against the wall. It was probably their gaudy design that made DeLuca's son choose them as being easy to spot. Although the bags were unpacked, I was in luck. They must not have put anything in the exterior pouches, so they felt no reason to empty them. I carefully unzipped it and took out the bag of dough. The explosion of gunfire made me drop the bag. Mr. Lena was standing at the bedroom door with a gun in his hands. He had missed me, but judging from the quickly spreading pool of blood from the bed, he had shot the person in the bed, his wife. I shot him before he got me. Radio button, checked. 1 of 3. I tried to take the gun away from him. Radio button, unchecked. 2. I said, put the gun down. Radio button, unchecked. 3 of 3. Next, button.
We're not very good with guns. I don't know. But we gotta shoot this guy.
I said, I tried to take the gun away. I shot him before he got me. Radio button, check. 1 of 3. Next, button. I said, although the bags were, the locked door was, I waited quietly. Show stats. Life of a mobster. The locked door was no trouble. Although the bags were, the explosion of, I shot him before he got me. Radio button, check. Next, button. I wasted no time as I shot the man with my Glock .45. He fell to the ground with a thud. I had killed my first man. I didn't have any time to react to what I had done. It wasn't a glorious gun battle or some street punk with a knife. It was a middle-aged man who was trying to protect his wife from a home intruder. I quickly left the house, taking the bag of cocaine with me. Firearms plus 10. I kept the drugs. Radio button. Check. 1 of 2. I destroyed the drugs. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2. Next. Button. I destroyed the drugs. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2.
I better destroy the guns if I want to get in good with the Don.
Next. I destroyed the drugs. Radio button. Uncheck. 2 of 2. Check. Next. Button. Never. Images of their bloody bodies would fill my dreams for many nights to come. I think the worst part was seeing their children on television when the story aired. Thank God they hadn't been home that night. The girl and boy had cried in front of the cameras as the news reporter said that the police had no leads as to who had murdered the quiet couple. I put the drugs into a new bag, tied it to a brick and tossed it into the New Daria River. It sank quickly out of sight, never to be seen again. A few days later I was invited back to Don DeLuca's house. Again, I was very nervous. He mentioned nothing about the dead couple and gave me a warm hug when he saw me. Never mention this, he said with a smile. Thank you.
Never mentioned this, monster. Thank you. You're welcome, Don. I got you.
Don DeLuca relationship plus 15. About a week later found me in the car with Jimmy the Carib. We were just doing the rounds and collecting protection money. You're quiet, he said, and he was right. I was thinking about that bloody bedroom.
You quiet, monster. What's wrong? I don't want to talk about it.
I never got a chance to answer when I suddenly saw a car swerving directly towards us. I swerved away, just in time. Needs 30 automobiles. Dimmed. Radio but I saw them coming and got out of the way. Needs 30 perception. Dimmed. Radio. My Mustang had enough power to stay ahead of them. Radio button. Check. 3 of 4.
Oh. All right, I think we're going to hold off right here. All you gangsters out there, come back for the next part of Life of a Mobster. And don't forget to hit the subscribe or I'll break all your fingers. We'll do this again soon on Game Double Tap. Peace out.